Okay, last but not the least, we have the manufacturing and materials category sponsored by Hunley. Hunley Adhesive Americas is one source for both industrial assembly adhesives and UV LED curing systems. As part of the global Hunley Adhesives business unit, they supply UV adhesives and coatings, epoxies, conductive adhesives to optimize the curing of UV adhesives and coatings. Hunley also provides high-power, broad-spectrum UV and monochromatic LED curing systems made by Hunley that are suitable for manual workstations and high-volume automated processes. Presenting the finalists for this category, React, automated capsule recycling technology for a circular coffee industry. On behalf of the team is Felix Melpartrida from Spain. Welcome, Felix.
Hello. Okay. So it's a real pleasure to be here. It's a very impressive set of technologies. I'm an engineer, and then I love looking at all these innovations. But I come for something totally different, something as mundane as having a cup of coffee. And actually, most of us don't realize how damaging it is for the environment, especially when you're using one of these capsule coffees made of aluminum, and it's highly contaminant for our environment. React is the name of the product. I brought a prototype here, and the best is probably that we play a very short video of 1 minute so that it actually explains what is the environmental challenge and how we are resolving it. $7 billion capsules a year, and less than 10% of those are being recycled. So this is our coffee machine. I will explain later what it does. And essentially, when you prepare a coffee, it automatically separates the organic coffee remains from the aluminum capsule. And then you can follow into 2 different recycle paths.
Thanks so much for that update, Charlie. It's the stuff of fantasies.
So essentially, as you could see in the video, the problem of the coffee capsules is a huge problem, and it's a growing problem worldwide. 60 billion coffee capsules are consumed worldwide, and then less than 10% are recycled because it's very costly, the separation of the organic substance from the aluminum. And unfortunately, most of them end up in a dump. Most of you are engineers, so you know the melting point of aluminum is about 600 centigrades or more than 1,000 Fahrenheit, so it doesn't melt when you go into dump and they burn it. And then this is creating a growing environmental issue pretty much in all the countries in the world due to the growth and popularity of coffee capsules. Then our team, what has developed is a patented technology. It's patented across US, Europe, China, and a few other large countries, where actually you make a coffee as in a regular coffee machine. And actually, at the point of making the coffee, we have developed the solution and the technology to separate the remains of the coffee from the aluminum capsule. And this is how it looks like. So it becomes totally kind of clean of capsule, and then you can throw this into the recycle bin, and then you can use the rest of the coffee as organic waste for any kind of other use. Then in reality, we have developed 4 different products. We've been working on this for 5 years now. The original idea, React Single, was actually that a device that you buy for your home single personal use, and actually you put the used capsules, and then it splits the two. The coffee remains from the aluminum. Of course, this has limited use. Then the next solution is to do this at a scale for the hospitality sector. So you could actually do like 20, 40 capsules in places like hotels, restaurants, and so on. But then the real innovation comes now with the React coffee machine, which is actually the prototype that we brought here. So here actually it's a regular coffee machine that actually has our technology integrated and automatically separates the aluminum capsule from the coffee remains. And then we are looking essentially for partnerships for doing this manufacturing at a scale, trying to get orders from coffee machine makers and manufacturers, from retailers that would like to contribute to the environment by making this kind of a white label product, because actually we don't realize that having a innocent cup of coffee, we actually contaminate so much the environment. In terms of the market size, just looking at the US figures alone, the market size of coffee capsules in the US is already projected to be 21.8 billion, growing at something like 4.8% the next 7 years. From this, we estimate the serviceable market is around $3 billion annually, just focusing on hospitality sector, food service, and offices, where actually there is a growing use of coffee capsules. And we believe that actually the obtainable market, very reasonable, would be something around $100 to $150 million annually, just focusing on the machine OEMs, coffee machine OEMs, and hospitality chains. On top of this, what we see is actually that in many of the commercial uses, like offices, hospitality, restaurants, and so on, the convenience of not having to prepare the coffee for someone makes that actually this is growing at 10% annually in the last couple of years. So actually it's a growing and growing and growing problem. Then lastly, in the US, the number of households that have adopted a coffee capsule machine is around 41%, but actually in other countries, like for instance in Spain, this is 72%. Okay. So there is a huge problem coming underway. And then the environmental impact, because of course we can see that it's very good, but how big it is, right? The reality is that the CO2 saved from all of this process is actually for 1 ton of aluminum, we save 9 tons of CO2. Okay, because it's a highly inefficient process. One of the elements is the transportation. Today, actually, you would have to take the coffee capsules to have people wasting them into the right bin, and then they are transported, generating CO2, to a recycling center where actually only in 10% of the cases they are recycled. Now with this system, actually it is recycled at the point of use. So actually we eliminate a big portion of the CO2 emissions by eliminating the transport. Awards and recognitions, as I mentioned, we started 5 years ago. We started with the first single machine with a patented technology. Then we evolved into the React hospitality prototype that was validated, was our first investment round. Then we got several loans from the innovation agency in Spain. And now we also got a grant from the European Union Manufacturing, let's say, Technology Innovation Organization. And now we are actually in PCT patent concession across, I think it's something like 32 countries. And then we just secured our first order from a coffee maker that actually wants to have their own coffee machines. They place an order of 1,500, and we are actually now trying to raise 500,000 euros, something like 580,000 US dollars. In terms of competition, it's quite interesting because there are other people trying to do this, but essentially we have 5 years advantage versus 1 or 2 years. So the other two, they provide the clean capsule, but actually it's not integrating to the coffee machine, which is actually the real innovation. The other thing is about being economic, being compact, and also to target a kind of a price tag that actually can drive mass adoption, and not only kind of early adopters. Then, of course, there is alternative of compostable capsules, which actually they are becoming more popular, but of course they are 30 to 40% more expensive, which actually becomes very difficult to adopt from a consumer point of view. In terms of business model, we also have 3 different business models. The first one is kind of a B2C model, where we are actually selling the React S direct to consumer, mainly, and also we will also are targeting to do this mainly via online channels. The second one is a B2B model, mainly for hospitality sector, which is more of a subscription service, where we provide the machine, and then on a regular basis we just recover all the capsules from aluminum that have been separated from our machine. And the last model, which is the one that we are very much interested in, is kind of a B2B2C model, where actually we sell the new coffee machine at a price point of 150 euros, which is around $165 per unit. And actually we think there is a huge opportunity here. The last of the business models actually is a license model for other coffee machine manufacturers that actually they could also use our patented technology to incorporate into their coffee machines. Our value proposition, you can immediately understand that it's around sustainability, convenience, because this is a lot easier to use, compliance with all the new regulations around reducing CO2 emissions, and of course affordability, because we have managed to do the design in a way that actually can be affordable for every household. And as I mentioned, we are raising now $580,000. Our focus, as you can see, is actually the mold for doing industrial manufacturing is actually the most expensive part. And the more orders that we have, now we have an order of 1,500 units. If we are able to get to 10,000 units ordered by someone, it would be ideal, because then we can really leverage the investment into the molds, the industrial molds, and then the rest is all marketing, production, overheads, and the typical kind of operations that any company like this would require. That's it.
And questions from the judges? If you need this. Want to start? Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice. So you might mention the recycling at the point of use. Maybe I missed something in your second to last slide. So you still have to get the aluminum to the place where it does recycle. Do you have a proposition for that?
Yeah, well, essentially it's like if you have this coffee machine at your home, then you make your coffee, and then you take this and you throw it into the recycling bin, right, and then it follows the path
Okay.
of the recycling for
right.
recycling materials, and the other one is all the organic,
Sure.
and that's it. So essentially, you avoid all the other complexities.
All right. And then aluminum is not a rare element. So the cost of production of like a kilogram of aluminum, how does that compare to recycling it? It's mostly like regulations based or customer preference based for sustainability. Is that correct?
I think so. I'm not an expert on that, but yes, I think so.
Yeah, and the other challenge that you run into with that recycle path is unless that recycle path is educated, and I mean the recyclers, I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the consumers,
Recyclers.
unless they know that that's clean enough to recycle, they will just throw it out themselves, and it creates a problem for them, not an assistance. So what are you doing? What are you doing to signify that these cups are clean cups as opposed to the ones coming out of other machines that are not?
Well, yeah. I mean, by visual inspection, you can already see that there are no remains here. Okay, so it's kind of almost common sense. But I agree totally with you. The challenge when all these coffee capsules were invented more than 30 years ago now by Nespresso or Nestlé, they already knew that this was going to be an environmental problem. They designed massive machines that cost several millions to be put at recycling centers for the recyclers. The problem is that these machines are very costly, and most of them, they don't have them. So now, when the capsules arrive to the recycling center, they just go to the dump because it's very costly to separate the organic from the inorganic. Now, with this, of course, we will have to kind of re-educate the recyclers that now some of the capsules you can actually recycle properly. But I think that is a lot easier than the current situation where we are.
Yes. So on most recyclable packaging, at least in the United States, there is a triangle
Yeah,
with
exactly.
a number. And so there's a certification process. So have you gone through any certification process for that aluminum to achieve that?
No, because we are
Okay.
focusing on the coffee machine. So in theory, it is recyclable, the coffee capsule.
Right.
The problem is that in practical terms, is not.
Oh, so that, unless it's practical,
Correct.
you need to get to that point. Right?
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a certification there's a certification step that you have to go through before that can realize its benefit.
Well, I think we need to drive adoption. Well, first of all, I think we need to drive awareness that the current coffee capsules create a massive environmental issue.
Yeah, I think most of us know that
Most
they're a
people
nightmare.
already know
Yeah.
that. Okay?
It's that
Most
there is
people.
a solution to that
Now, there is a solution to the problem. That's what we're actually, we need to do a marketing campaign
Right.
to explain to people like, actually, there is an alternative coffee machine that if you buy, you could actually do it. Or there are certain coffee machines that could have kind of a double recycling sign, saying like, it's not only the coffee machine, but actually the actual use of this machine reduces the environmental and
Right.
CO2 impact. But we haven't
in
gone through
parallel,
that.
you are going to have
We haven't done that.
you're going to need both
Correct.
because if the recycler can see that stamp on that package, then he knows he can put it into his aluminum recycle
Correct.
stream.
Correct. Correct.
Did you? Sure. Just a follow up. Have you considered taking the aluminum foils back in the subscription model, like just as a follow up, because recycling is challenging? So, would that give the customer a discount for being a good citizen?
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. So we are a small startup, so we need to start getting the coffee machine made, manufactured. Actually, I believe that very soon some people will start doing that kind of, let's say, subscription service to recover the aluminium. We already got approached by 2 companies in the kind of metals and recycling industry who said like, oh, we really want to get all the hold of all the aluminium from there, right? But we said, yeah, we need to drive adoption to be able to produce tons of aluminium for you. But yes, there is a business to be developed once we get mass adoption.
We had a final question.
I was just going to follow up on the recycling bit. So you would behoove yourself to talk to recyclers. A lot of small objects such as this, it doesn't matter unless they're a pure bar, they won't handle anything less than a fist or less than a deck of cards. So something this small will just jam their system. Even the more modern systems will just jam. I don't know what metal, I know it's aluminum. I don't know what series this is, if it's a 5,000, 3,000 series. There is some drawing, I don't think there's ironing to this component. But you need to make sure that they are willing to take that metal
Yes.
as well. But for the most part, unless it's somehow packaged that their machines will not jam, they will discard the entire lot coming in.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. So we have talked to actually, I mean, me myself, because I know some people in the recycling industry, but also the team has had several meetings with recyclers. And yet, as you mentioned, they say, okay, this is problematic for us, but it's less problematic if it already comes totally clean from organic. Because for them, the problem is the organic component. And then the next challenge is the size and how we can, let's say, educate them, right?
10 seconds. So the key is that you made it clean. And
Yes.
Susan's point, you could probably thought of this too. You could crush them and combine them into bigger blocks, and that might solve that problem.
Correct. Great idea.
Well, thank you for answering all the questions, and thanks you for the great questions there. And so that was our last presentation, and I want to thank everybody for their excellent presentations here, and to the judges for your questions and taking the time to evaluate. Big round of applause for everybody. And at this point, we are going to take a break, and we'll take the blue folders from you guys, all the judges, to tabulate the scores, and we'll be back with the announcement of the winner in some time. So stretch those legs, grab a coffee,